Welcome to TradeTheNBA.com. This is John's report. It's for the 6th of September, and hope everyone had a great Labor Day weekend, the end of summer for, well, most traditional concepts of it, even though it doesn't happen until the 21st, still, or 22nd, depending on the year. Regardless, what we're looking at is the market finally going to be coming alive as people return back from the Hamptons and we start to see a little bit more action play at this particular point. Shakeout's improving. We got a nice cross with the green as well as steel. So midterm, short-term buyers all acting at the same time with both long-term buyers in there. So should be enough to repel it. We've got shorts having faded out though, well below zero at this particular point. So they're not as extreme into the equation. It's just still been pretty flat. They're just waiting for Hillary's coffee text in to make sure that there's not going to be any change in what their expectation for the election is. NQ, likewise, flat as a pancake. You see a little DOC spread developing there with the cyan starting to burst ahead, as well as on the Dow here. You can see the crossover alongside, both taking advantage of it. Number 2 buy in there. Number 1 oversold on USO means we might get a little stabilization. Short-term buyers popped in, just moved back above on the extreme here, but nothing too exciting from that standpoint. Bounced back in gold because it got a little overdone. It's already revisited the lows right here at the dip under the red line, and then we made lower lows on the higher extreme, and sure enough, the shakeout improved slightly. And then once we had the cross of well, both short-term and mid-term buyers above the cyan, if this had been a little bit higher pop of the steel and then the spider here, we would have expected a major bounce from gold, but a modest one. It's not going to hurt anything until TLT bonds going nowhere. Euro is going to bounce off that deep oversold at this particular point, though. It probably has got a little more basing to do at this particular spot, though. Shorts completely fading out of there. They've taken their nice gain on that. We were along with them on that easy call, and nice. No complaints with that whatsoever. Here we have the case chart from the other day. We had some decent short setups in here. I had some interesting ones where, like in this particular case, ended up with a little bit of a buy that then split itself into this crossover move right here. But you can see the numbers on the cyan. So it went from -12, 2.23, and next one 169. Not enough to trigger a short signal. That's going to happen. But the secondary one would be a short when you move above the, now people say, oh, but the move's almost over. Well, you don't know that when it's happening. It could be the beginning of a much larger move. What we do know is that we ended up with an immediate turnaround of the steel crossing back above. That's the first warning sign. And then boom, we got the steel above with the orange dipping below red, which is our steel signal for a long at that particular point. And then once you've crossed the long algo, time to flip from there. So kind of a neutral setup from where that short secondary signal came in. But even from the first one, even if you had left it without taking the last little buy signal or even covering, even if you had a part of it, you still could have kept most of that. Just depends on how long you want to play. The problem with buy setups that came in here with the dip below the red line is overbought on the extreme. Likewise, same thing happened here, even though you already had the buy signal earlier. Secondary one at this particular point pointed out positive extremes all along here, meaning that these values were all going to get retraced, which is exactly what happened to them. And then we ended up with a short signal that took place right about there, which is in the midst of it, and we're just dipping below the red line right here for a bullish stint of it. This one was close to being not a short. I mean, you're at 1444 here, just shy of that plus 15 that would have precluded the short setup unless the orange was over 20, which it was not. So that's okay. It's going to happen within there. Likewise, we ended up with a similar configuration like this particular case right here, where the short comes in after the nice long signal that came in earlier back over here. Nice run all the way to this point. Now, at that particular point, though, obviously we have our other stops that are going to be in place, ABM-wise, and that will allow you to at least exit, even if it's not an active turnaround short. But we were plus the 15 here on the shakeout indicator, and even though we came up, we didn't end up with a plus 20 on the orange. We only ended up with 17. You actually needed to be at 19, got up to 18, and then by the time you're below signal's gone. Can't take it from there. You can look for additional shorts now. In this particular case, anytime you have cyan above, I mean, it's still above cyan and then dips back below, are short signals. But those become quite often. The easier one to look for would be the orange staying below cyan and above red, because it's when it dips below the red like it did here. That's your first indication of a long, and as soon as the steel dips below the 7.5, you have your long setup in this particular case, because that's a strong one. That's the gold buy versus then all you're looking at then is the shakeout to make sure it's continuing. Now, it gets a little bit suspect here when we look at the extreme histogram. Those values are just getting inside. We're right there, we're at minus 13. Typically you want to be outside the minus 20 range, like right here, which is an indication that you're a little bit, but at that point you would have lost your signal, because at that point you're below the green with cyan, which is actually bullish. So in that particular case, you have your crossover from that standpoint. So at that point, you ended up with a little bit of heat that it took, but did exactly what was expected. It wasn't until all the way over here that you get the final turnaround, and that happens a lot, where you'll get the algos will trade from one end to the other at the exact same range. So the signal is complete from where it starts to where it ends. Now, this one didn't trigger for us simply because of that checkout plus 15 range. But needless to say, you'll see a lot of this where it's like almost the end value. It's the fact that we're able to pick up with the DOC inside of these particular instances that allow us to capture the turn when it happens, at least a viable turn, not the false ones. I've just about completed the adjustments for paint bar language on a few of these, and so I think probably a little bit later, by the time market opens, it should have a visual paint bar that should at least start to match these lines now that the code's been transferred and put in place. Just takes a little bit of while, but that was good having the extra holiday weekend, which wasn't a holiday here in Italy, but that's okay. Doesn't matter. Good news on the computer front, they were able to salvage my data off my machine, which is fantastic. Fractured hard drive, don't even know how that's possible sitting on a desktop, but something quirky happened, and fortunately they were able to get the data off of it, and we'll reboot it, so that will be a good thing. I'll be able to get my update to the website and that, and everything will be fantastic as far as that goes. So, as always though, continue to look for me on the Skype chat. Trade well. We'll talk to you later.